हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविंदा गोविंदा, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः, गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। यस्य कारुण्य संप्राप्त्यै पात्रभेदो न विद्यते, समदर्शन संतुष्टं सद्गुरुं शरणं भजे। कलये सुन्दराकारं सदैकप्रियदर्शनम्, अज्ञाननाशकं देवं सद्गुरुं मुरलीधरं, मुरलीमण्डितकरकमलं मुनिजनमोहनं, व्यत्यस्तपादं वनमालाधारिणं, प्रेमभक्तमण्डलनित्यकीर्तितं श्रीप्रेमिकवरदम् आश्रयेऽहम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतक्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नाम संकीर्तनं यस्य सर्वपापप्रणाशनं, प्रणामो दुःखशमनः तं नमामि हरिं परम्। श्रीहरये नमः, श्रीहरये नमः, श्रीहरये नमः। गोपिका जीवनस्मरणं गोविंदा गोविंदा, सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। By the benign grace of Lord Sri Hari and our beloved Sadguru Maharaj, His Holiness Sri Sri Muralidhara Swamiji, we are all extremely fortunate to have gathered here to enjoy this nectarine bliss of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we get into Srimad Bhagavatam, it's generally important for us to know the importance and the greatness of the subject that we are about to learn. The greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam is found in one of the 18 Puranas called Sri Padma Purana. This Padma Puranam is also one of the 18 Puranas that was compiled by sage Vedavyasa. And in Padma Purana, the glory and the greatness of Bhagavatam, which is called as the Bhagavata Mahatmya, is given. Bhagavan has taken the form of a lake called Pushkar, and Bhagavan has taken the form of a wild boar, and similarly Bhagavan has actually taken the form of a forest, and that is Naimisharanya. And in this Naimisharanya, we have the sage Shaunaka and many other sages. So it is generally referred to as Shaunakadi Rishis. Shaunaka is one of the Rishis' name, and Adi is etc. So when you say Shaunakadi Maharishis, we mean that Shaunaka Rishi along with other Rishis who were gathered there. So they are all in this Naimisharanya, and Suta Pauranika is there in front of them, and most of the scriptures are a conversation between the Suta Pauranika and Shaunaka Maharishi. Shaunaka Maharishi invariably puts a question, and Suta Pauranika gives the reply in the form of one of the scriptures. And that is exactly how Padma Purana is also set up in the same Naimisharanya. And while introducing Shaunaka Maharishi, Padma Purana beautifully says, Kathamrita Rasaswada Kushalaha Shaunako Braveet. So he's been given a title. It says Kathamrita Rasa Aswada Kushalaha. Kushalaha is someone who is very adept. And what is Shaunaka Rishi adept in? He is Katha Amrita Rasa Aswada. Katha Amrita is the nectarine bliss of story. Right? Aswada is relishing. So Shaunaka Maharishi was an expert, was an adept in relishing the divine leelas, the divine stories of Bhagavan. So that was what he was. He used to enjoy the stories of Bhagavan. And Shaunaka Maharishi here puts a very relevant question to Suta Pauranika. He asks, Iha gore kalau prayo jivascha suratam kataha klesha krantasya tasyaiva shodhane kim parayanam shreyasam yad bhavet shreyaha pavananam cha pavanam krishna praptikaram shashvat sadhanam tadvadadhuna. He says, Iha gore kalau prayo jivascha asuratam kataha. He is describing the state of people, the state of mind of people in this Kali Yuga. And he says, they all look very normal, but their mental state is so demonic. You know, Swamiji, our Gurunatha, Guru Maharaj, used to give a beautiful example. He used to say that in the previous yugas, if we take the previous yugas, we always find that once upon a time, if you look at the Charitras, we find there was a Loka for Asuras, there was a place where Asuras lived, and there was a place where Devas lived. That's how it was. So in the initial incarnations of Bhagavan, invariably we find that, the Devas, they go and surrender unto Bhagavan, and Bhagavan fights the Asuras for the sake of Devas. So there were two people, independently. But later, in the Mahabharata period, if we look at it, we find that actually these Asuras and Devas, they had taken a human form and they were related. They started living in the same land. They started living in the same area. They were not living in two separate places. And then Swami used to say that in Kali Yuga, the problem is the Asuric tendency and the divine tendency. Both these tendencies exist in the same person. So we can't actually pick out someone as an Asura or someone as a Deva, someone with a divine quality or someone with a, demonic quality. We can't really differentiate like that, because everybody in Kali Yuga is actually a mixture of both these tendencies. So that's what Shaunaka Maharishi says here. In this Kali Yuga, there's such a Ghora Kali Yuga where everyone has such negative tendencies so deeply inside them. They are negative by nature. That's how they are. And Shaunaka Maharishi wants to know a solution for this problem. He says, how can people attain blessedness in this Kali Yuga? What is that single upaya? What is that single path? What is that single thing that should be done by everyone to attain that blessedness? And he says, of all the paths that might be available for attaining the same goal, I want the best of the best. The best among all the good, rather. He says, Shreyasam yat bhavet shreyaha pavananam cha pavanam. That's what he says here. He says, among all the purifying agencies, that which is the most purifying, please tell us that particular path which will help all the people of Kali Yuga to attain that blessedness. So that was the question put by Shaunaka Maharishi. And Suta Pauranika, who was an adept in all the Puranas and Itihasas. So that is something, again, another interesting point here. Shaunaka Rishis were adepts in the knowledge of Vedas. Suta Pauranika had not the Suta Pauranika did not have any formal education of Vedas, but he was an expert in Itihasas and Puranas, which come out as the essence of Vedas, which are not different from Vedas. They give the same essence, but it is Sara. It is literally the essence of the Vedas, so it's more palatable. It's easy to understand and easy to follow. It is more practical when we look at the Itihasas and the Puranas. And Suta Pauranika, who was an expert only in the Puranas and Itihasas, was questioned here by the experts and exponents of Vedas. That shows the greatness of the Puranas, which actually gives us the path in a very simple way, in a way that we can understand and relate to for all practical purposes. So Suta Pauranika begins by giving an answer, and he says, this question of yours has only a single solution, and that comes in the form of Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. He says, Kala Vyala Mukhagrasa Trasa Nirnasha Hetave Srimad Bhagavatam Shastram Kalau Kirena Bhashitam. This Bhagavata Mahapurana, which is the most important scripture in the gamut of scriptures that is found in our Sanatana Dharma, this Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana, this Shastra was given by Shuka. It was narrated by sage Shuka to King Parikshit. This was compiled and composed by sage Vedavyasa. But it was sage Shuka, who was the son of our divine sage Vedavyasa, who gave this Bhagavata Purana to this entire world through King Parikshit. Kalau Kirena Bhashitam. So Kirena here represents Shuka. He is the one who gave this to this entire world. And he says, Ye tasmat aparam kinchit manashuddhyai na vidyate janmantare bhavet punyam tada bhagavatam labhet. He says, except for this Bhagavata Mahapurana, there is no other scripture or no other way that can actually lead to the purification of one's mind. Manashuddhyai na vidyate. Etasmat aparam kinchit. Apart from this, there is absolutely no other scripture which can actually help us purify our mind. And then he says, the greatness of Bhagavatam, he says, Janmantare bhavet punyam Srimad Bhagavatam labhet. Having said that, apart from Bhagavatam there is no other solution, he says, this Bhagavatam is not easily accessible. Not all can get to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmantare bhavet punyam. He says one must have accrued merits, punya, in their past janma, not in just one janma, in crores of janma. The merits that one accumulates in past crore janmas, when it reaches a height, when Bhagavan cannot give anything else in return for that merit, it's only then that one gets to listen to Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. Janmantare bhavet punyam tada bhagavatam labhet. Only then one gets Bhagavatam. And to prove his point, here Suta Pauranika narrates an incident. This happened just before sage Shuka was about to start, narrating Srimad Bhagavatam. Just before that, Parikshit is there, Shukacharya has arrived, and all the sages are waiting on the banks of Mata Ganga, river Ganga, and Parikshit has put the question and Shukacharya is going to reply. This whole scene we will be seeing again when we are looking into Srimad Bhagavatam per se, but this is the setup. And when Shukacharya is about to reveal Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana to Parikshit, the Devas, the celestial beings from heaven, they came down. They came down and they looked at Sri Shuka and they had a little pot in their hand. And they came to Sage Shuka and they said, see, the problem is Parikshit is having a curse. And Parikshit would die in 7 days from now because the Deva Naga called Takshaka was going to bite him. So the Devas had a deal. They offered a deal. They went to Sage Shuka and they said, see, now that Parikshit is here, he is awaiting his death, we have a solution. We have this Amrita, the nectar from heaven. This is called Deva Amrita. And if anyone has even a single drop, if someone can get to taste a single drop of this nectar, that would make him immortal. He would live forever. So they were ready here and they looked at Sage Shuka and they said, we have this nectar, this Deva Amrita with us. We will give this Deva Amrita to Parikshit. Believe it or not, that's a great offer. Because in Ramayana we find that Bhagavan's father, King Dasharatha, his prowess was so great that he used to go to Swarga, he used to go to heaven and fight, on the side of Devas against the Asuras. And Devas used to seek his help to fight with Asuras. That was his greatness. That was the reason why he was called Dasharatha. His chariot would move on all the 10 directions, in all the 10 directions, which means he had his say everywhere. That was his greatness. And Dasharatha used to visit heaven often. And he used to help our Devas quite often. In spite of that, it is said that not on a single occasion did Indra ever offer even a single drop of nectar to Dasharatha. So that's how, miserly they are about offering nectar, this Devamrita, to anyone, or they don't do it easily. In spite of that, these Devas, they had come down here and they offered this Devamrita to Parikshit, and they said, we will give this. In exchange, can you please give us the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana? Simple barter system. We give you this Devamrita, you give us that Bhagavatamrita. Shukacharya was very amused. He thought, just imagine a little child coming to us and offering a few pieces of glass and, asking us for a diamond ring in exchange. You would just, you won't even reply. One won't even feel like replying. You'll just laugh it off. Is it not? Shukacharya felt exactly the same. He just smiled. He did not even bother to reply because he says, Kwa kachaha, kwa manir mahan. How can one even compare this silly Devamrita with this divine, Bhagavata Kathamrita? The nectar of Bhagavatam is something that cannot be given in exchange for even this Devamrita. Which may be rare for a human being, for mortals. But still, this incident is related by Suta Pauranika here to show how rare a fortune it is for someone to really listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, because even Devas did not get it. Even they did not get it. They wanted it, but they were not given. That is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says. And Suta Pauranika further emphasizes this glory, and he says, when Lord Brahma himself saw the emancipation of Parikshit by listening to Bhagavatam and not doing anything else, the only thing Parikshit did was he sat in a single place for 7 days continuously and he heard Srimad Bhagavata Katha in its entirety. That's the only thing he did. And he attained the supreme bliss. He attained Bhagwan. When Brahmaji saw that, he himself was really surprised. Even Brahmaji did not know the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam at that time. So he wanted to really, to show an analogy, he says that literally Brahmaji took a balance, a weighing balance in his hand. On one side, he kept all the scriptures and all the sadhanas spoken of in the scriptures, like yoga sadhana, tapas, japa, chanting, everything, doing dhyana, doing some kind of, atma vichara. He kept all the sadhanas, all the paths that can lead us to emancipation. And he also kept all the other scriptures on one side of that balance, and on the other side, he kept Srimad Bhagavatam. And he saw practically that nothing could equal Srimad Bhagavatam. It was down there, low, and it was weighing heavier than all these other sadhanas put together. That was the greatness of Bhagavatam. And then Suta Pauranika, after showing basically how rare and how fortunate one has to be to actually sit and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, he goes on to say an incident again which narrates this glory of Bhagavatam in a greater detail. It seems once the mind-born sons of Lord Brahma, there were 4, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara. Now these 4 together were always referred to as Kumaras. So whenever we refer to the word Kumaras, we would always mean these mind-born sons of Brahmaji, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara. Now these Kumaras, who were the mind-born sons of Brahmaji, They were coming down to this holy land of Bharat, and they were visiting Badrikashrama, which is also called Vishala, the Vishala Kshetra. The Badrikashrama, which is one of the 108 Divya Desas, the holy places of Sri Vaishnavas. The holy places of Sri Vaishnavas where the deities were sung by Alvars, who were the Vaishnava saints, is called Divya Desha. And we have 108 such Divya Deshas, and Badrikashrama is one of them. Vrindavana is one of them. Similarly, Tirupati is one of them. There are a lot. Naimisharanya is actually one of them. So here, these mind-born sons of Brahmaji, the Kumaras, they were visiting Badrikashrama seeking satsanga. That's the greatness of this bhumi. This Bharata Varsha, this land is so great because even for these celestial beings, if they need satsanga, they have to come down here. So they came to Badrikashrama seeking satsanga. And while they were down there, they actually saw someone coming right in front of them. The moment they saw this person, they knew that he's someone we really know well. Someone whom we really know really well. And when the person was coming nearer, they were very surprised and shocked. They realized it was Naradji. The shock was because, though it was Naradji, sage Narada, divine sage Narada, he didn't look like divine sage Narada. Because the one thing that marks sage Narada, whom we would be referring to as Naradji from now on, the one thing that marks Naradji is that smile on his face and the joy that he would spread wherever he goes by singing these divine names of God. Wherever we find Naradji, even if it is in some kind of a drama or in some kind of a, in a movie or anywhere we find him, we always see that he is shown as someone who is very joyful, who keeps singing Narayana, 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 Narayana. Is it not? But here was Naradji walking completely lost. His mind was not there. He was like completely lost in some kind of very deep thought. And he looked very troubled. And Sanakadis, the Kumaras, they were very surprised. They never seen Naradji like that. So they stopped Naradji for a moment and they saluted him. And Naradji was also very happy to see his brothers, because Naradji is also the son of Brahmaji. When he saw these brothers of his, he was so happy. He was waiting to see someone like that because he was confused about something. And perceiving his confusion, the Kumaras, they asked, "No, what is troubling you, Narada? Why are you looking so full of pain, and sorrow? What is troubling your mind? Please tell us." And Naradji said, "I'm waiting to tell this to someone. I'm really waiting." He said, "Come on, go ahead. What is it?" And then Naradji said, "I actually went for a visit down to earth because I heard that Kali Yuga had set in, and I wanted to know the state of people in Kali Yuga. I really wanted to know the state of affairs in general in Kali Yuga. I wanted to see how the earth was faring in Kali Yuga. So I went to have a look." He says, "Aham tu prithvim yato nyatva sarvottamam iti pushkaram cha prayagam cha kashim godavarim tatha." And I went about visiting places. And Naradji says, mind you, I did not visit any random place. I chose my points of visit. I went only to holy places, spots of pilgrimage. That's the way I chose. I went to Pushkara, I went to Prayaga, I went to Kashi, I went to Godavari. I visited all the holy rivers and holy kshetras. And lo, you know what I found? What I saw there terrified me. I thought it was a bad decision to come down to earth to see this. I thought I shouldn't do it again, and I was about to run away. Why? Because I saw Satyam Nasti, Tapaha Shaucham, Daya Danam Na Vidyate. udarambarino jivaha varaka kutabashinaha. I found satyam nasti. There was no truthfulness anywhere to be found. Tapaha. The word penance was completely forgotten. Shaucham. Cleanliness was not something anyone even bothered about. Satyam nasti. Tapa shaucham. Daya danam na vidyate. I could not find compassion. I could not find charity. I couldn't find anything. All I found was udarambarino jivaha. People had become so selfish. All they could think of was only about their own well-being and the well-being of their own family. Literally filling their tummies was the only thing they could think of, and they were working towards only that. I could see that. No one was bothered about how others were. That was the state of affairs. Mandaha, sumandamatayaha, mandabhagya, hipadrutaha. They are all so dull-headed. They are all so lazy. See, even if someone is dull-headed and lazy, if they are fortunate enough, if they are lucky enough, they may actually, get through this life. But he says, mandabhagya. They are not fortunate enough. Hipadrutaha. Their life is full of hindrances, full of obstacles, full of sorrows, full of problems. And still, they are not in any way trying to change their life of, style of life or change their ways. Pakanda nirata santaha. But what pained me most was when I visited the so-called saints, the so-called sadhus of Kali Yuga, I was in for all the more shock. Pakanda nirataha. All the sadhus were they're accumulating more wealth than even the grihasthas. And the grihasthas are so selfish. He says that was what I actually saw when I went down to earth. But that's not the end of the story. He says, still, though I found that there were na yogi, naiva siddhova, na jnani, satkriyo naraha, kali davanale nadya sadhanam basmadam gadam. Though I found that there were no yogis, no one practicing yoga anymore, there were no more siddha purushas there, no jnanis, nobody who was doing any satkriya, any righteous action. I didn't find anyone like that, because I saw that in this burning fire of Kali Yuga, all the sadhanas, all the good things, anything that would lead to the blessedness of a living being was burnt to ashes. Kali Yuga had taken its toll. Though I saw all this, in spite of that, I still wanted to give it a go. I had seen all the places, and the only place I had not visited yet was this holy land of Vrindavan. And I thought, let me go to Vrindavan and see there, and then I would just go back to my abode and never step on this earth till this Kali Yuga is there. So that was a decision I took. That was a sankalpa, a vow that I took. And I walked towards Vrindavan. And while I was in Vrindavan, I was walking on the banks of river Yamuna. There I saw a really wonderful thing which I had not seen anywhere else. And I want to talk about that. And he continued telling what he saw in Vrindavan to his brothers, the Kumaras, in this holy kshetra of Badrikashrama. And Naraji said that while I was walking towards that, on the banks of river Yamuna, I suddenly saw a very beautiful young lady. She was sitting on the banks of Yamuna and she was weeping. She was crying. I looked around and I found that there were two very, very old men lying on her sides, and they were completely unconscious, and from the distance I could perceive that they were actually struggling to even breathe. They were struggling for life. And there were many young ladies who were fanning this young lady who was sitting, and this lady was weeping piteously. I really had a heart to go to her and ask her what her woe was, but then I thought maybe I should not be interfering, and while I was crossing her, she called out to me, Bho sadho kshanam tishta. Piteously she called, Oh sadhu, please hold on for just 1 second. The moment she said that, I understood that she knew the value of being with a sadhu for a second. Being in the company of saints, being in the company of Mahatmas, even if it's only for a second or even a fraction of a second, it could do all the good in the world to us. Sarva Siddhikaram, she says. It will grant one all that they desire. That's the greatness of Satsanga, the company of sadhus. Is it not? So she says, oh sadhu, can you just hold on for a second and just listen to my problem? Naraji says, I was touched by her crying to me, and I came out there. I went near her and I asked her, Mother, who are you? Why are you weeping like this? Why are you crying? And who are these two men? Why are they unconscious? And who are these ladies around you who are fanning you? And that young lady smiled at Naraji and she said, the very fact that you yourself cannot identify me goes to show the state in which I am. Naraji was surprised. He said, do I know you, mother? He said, well, you are the one who wrote this beautiful sutra called Narada Bhakti Sutra. You talked about, it's aphorisms on bhakti, on devotion. And she said, I am that Bhakti Devi on whom you have written this entire Bhakti Sutra. Naraji was truly shocked. The lady Bhakti Devi continued, and these two, they are regarded as my sons, Jnana and Vairagya. She says, these two are my own sons, Jnana and Vairagya. Jnana is knowledge. Vairagya is dispassion. Knowledge or wisdom in Sanskrit is Jnana, and dispassion, which means non-attachment, not being attached to anything worldly, is called Vairagya. So from here on, we'll be using Jnana for wisdom and knowledge and Vairagya for dispassion. And Jnana and Vairagya were the children of this Bhakti Devi. She says, Naraji, please listen to my entire story. Utpanna Dravide Saham Vriddhim Karnatake Gada Kvachit Kvachit Maharashtra Gurjare Jirnadam Gada. My birthplace was Dravida Desha, which is the south part of India, which is popularly called as Tamil Nadu these days. That is the birthplace of Bhakti Devi. And she says, then I traveled to Karnataka and I grew there and I was spread quite well in Maharashtra. And then when I reached Gujarat, I attained the right age. But as years passed, as yugas passed, as ages passed, I lost my strength because people lost faith in the scriptures, people lost faith in Bhagavan, people lost faith in me. So I lost the strength. And my children, Jnana and Vairagya, they are nearing death in this Kali Yuga. She wept. She looked at Naraji and she asked, tell me, why is this happening? Why am I feeling so weak? How is it that my two children are about to die? They are so old. And I'll tell you, Naraji, I was also in their state. I was also as bad as they are now. But I pulled myself and these two together and I walked to Brindavan. And the moment I reached Brindavan, Brindavanasya Samyogat, because I came to Brindavan, I attained. The moment I came to Brindavan, I became young again. But my children, they are still the same. Tell me why this is happening. What's happening around here? What's happening to us? Naraji was silent for a moment. He meditated for a few seconds. Then he opened his eyes and he said, Mother, the only reason is Kali Yuga. The age of Kali. This is what it does to everybody. And you have become young because that is the greatness of Brindavana. Brindavanasya samyogat punastvam taruninava dhanyam Brindavanam tena bhaktihi nrityati yatracha. This Brindavana is the Leela Sthala, the place, the holy place where Bhagavan had performed lot of lovely Leelas in the form of Sri Krishna. And that is why in Brindavana, Bhakti still lives. You're able to thrive in Vrindavana, because that is the place where Bhagavan has done so many leelas. That's why you've got your youth back. But these two have not got up yet. I understand. Don't worry about it. In this Kali Yuga, you are going to be the only thing that's going to help everybody. So I will not rest till I establish you in every house. Don't worry about it. Bhakti Devi asked, if this is the work of Kali Yuga, why did the Lord and why did King Parikshit let this Kali Yuga live in this land? He should have been driven out. Why did he actually give the place to Kali Yuga? And Naradji said, your answer is your question is understandable. But Bhakti Devi, we have to understand that saints, Mahatmas, they actually see the merit in everything. Saranga iva sarabuk. Just like a bee knows to take the essence of the nectar from all the different flowers, Mahatmas, the very nature of Mahatmas is actually to pick the meritorious things and deeds that one has done. And Kali may be full of vices. Kalihi doshanide rajan. It is full of vices, no doubt. But there is asti eko mahan gunaha. There is one great merit of this Kali Yuga. And it was that one single merit that Parikshit actually saw and let Kali Yuga live. And what was that? He saw yat palam nasti tapasa na yogena samadhina tat palam labate samyak kalau keshava kirtanat. Yat palam nasti tapasa. The beauty of this shloka is, it does not say the fruit, the result that one would get by doing tapas, penance, or yoga, the yogena samadhina, or deep meditation, dhyana or meditation. The result, the fruit that, it does not say that the fruit that one would get by doing penance, by doing tapas, by doing yoga, or by practicing samadhi will be got by the ones who chant the divine names of Lord. No. He says, yat palam nasti tapasa na yogena samadhina. That fruit, that result that one cannot obtain by even doing penance, by even practicing yoga, by even sitting in deep meditation, that can be got by merely chanting the divine names of Bhagavan. That can happen only in Kali Yuga. That is the greatness of Kali Yuga, where Krishna Kirtana, chanting the divine names of Lord, Nama Kirtana alone would suffice without any other paraphernalia. That is the grandeur. Nama Kirtana always existed in all the other yugas. We should not think that maybe Nama Kirtana is something that is, newly born in Kali Yuga. No, it's always there. All the other sadhanas would also have Nama Sankirtana as one of the ingredients. Without Nama Sankirtana, the other sadhanas, the other paths will not work. But the greatness of Nama Sankirtana is that Nama Sankirtana alone is enough. That is the beauty of Nama Kirtana. And in Kali Yuga, since people become almost unfit, making it a bit easy on us. Though the truth is that we are absolutely unfit, scriptures go, they're very compassionate and they say that you're almost unfit to do most of the things. So the easier, the simpler and the best path would be the path of Nama Sankirtana. And since Parikshit figured it out, since he understood that in Kali Yuga there's going to be this easy path for people to attain Bhagavan, to attain that blessedness, to attain that supreme bliss, he thought we have to live it, we have to let it live. And that's why he spared Kali Yuga without, killing him or sending him off. So here he says, Naradji gives this reason, he says, Parikshit left Kali Yuga only because Kali Yuga had this great Nama Sankirtana as a merit in it. And that's why he is there. And he says, don't worry, mother, in this Kali Yuga, alam vrataihi, alam tirtaihi, alam jnana kathalapaihi. He says, bhakti rekaiva muktida. In this Kali Yuga, alam vratehi, tirtaihi, makaihi. One need not do any tirtha yatras. One need not do any, sacrifices, makhas, yagyas or yagas. One need not do any vratas. One need not, practice any vows. One need not do anything. One need not hear to Vedanta. One need not practice Jnana Vichara. The only thing that they need to do is Bhakti. You are going to be the solution. And I am going to be the one who is going to establish this Bhakti in Gehe, Gehe, Jane, Jane. In every house, in the heart of every person, don't worry about it. See, the moment Bhakti Devi heard the cause for her problem, Kali Yuga, she was half happy. Usually, when people have some kind of a problem, the first thing they ask is generally, why did this happen to me? So even before asking the solution for the problem, the first thing that gets into their mind is, why did this have to happen to me? Is it not the cause? So most of the time people get an answer like, this is your prarabdha, it is your karma or whatever, that's how it is destined or whatever. But generally, just knowing the reason for a problem sometimes puts us at ease, is it not? So something very similar happened to Bhakti Devi, because Naradji, he said, Kali Yuga is the problem. It is because of this Kali Yuga that you have become, you have lost your strength, and your two children, Jnana and Vairagya, they have lost their strength, they are unconscious. And having said that, Naradji, when Naradji said that, Bhakti Devi asked Naradji to wake them up. She asked him to try to wake them up somehow. And Naradji also gave it a go. He thought that's going to be pretty easy. So he took up Jnana, then he took up Vairagya, he put them on his lap, and he started chanting the Vedic mantras into their ears. He started chanting the Upanishad mantras into their ears. He followed it with Bhagavad Gita chanting into their ears. When he started chanting all these Vedantic scriptures, the Vedic mantras, into the ears of Jnana and Vairagya started showing signs of life. They slowly opened their eyes. They felt, a bit of energy rushing into them. They were almost up and they were sitting beside, Bhakti Devi and Naradji there. And the moment Naradji perceived them sitting, he was so happy. He was so happy. He looked at Bhakti Devi, in all pride, saying, see, it's worked. But he saw that Bhakti Devi was not smiling. He said, what's wrong? He said, just look around again. And he turned to see that both of them had fallen down again the moment Naradji stopped chanting. When Naradji chanted the mantras, they seemed to be getting some energy. But the moment Naradji stopped chanting the mantras, they seemed to be losing the energy. Then Naradji did not know what else to do. The only thing he knew to awaken Jnana and Vairagya, to awaken knowledge and dispassion, was these Vedic mantras and Bhagavad Gita and Upanishad. If that did not work, he was not sure what else would work. He didn't know of anything else that might really work. He was quite shocked. He said, Bhakti Devi, don't worry. If this doesn't work, I'll figure out a way. I'll find a way that will work. He got up and in Vrindavana, he went to all the sadhus there and he inquired. He said, do you know of some way to awaken Jnana and Vairagya, to strengthen these three again? Do you know of any way? And all the sadhus, they were like startled. They thought, if Naradji himself does not know the way, who else will know the way? How can we suggest something that Naradji himself does not know? How would we even know? So they did not know what to say. They were not able to give any reply. Naradji was perplexed. He assured Bhakti Devi. He said, don't worry, mother. I'll find a way for this and come back. Please wait for me here. And he walked around. He went around all the kshetras again. Whomever he looked, whomever he saw, any Mahatma, any sadhu, anywhere, he would just ask this question. And they would say Veda. They would say Upanishad. They would say Bhagavad Gita, and Naraji would say it didn't work. I tried. They do wake up, but they just fall off the moment I stop. I don't know how to, keep them in that state. How to give them that energy, I really don't know. And while searching for this answer, Naraji happened to come to Badarikashrama, the kshetra, the place, the holy place called Vishala, where he met his brothers, Sanakadis, and we are back to the starting point of the story. And Naraji said, this is what happened. I went around the earth, I found things were in a very bad state. Then I went to Vrindavan, I saw this lady, I saw Bhakti Devi, I saw these two children, I tried to waken them up. I could not do it. I could not do it. And now I am here trying to find a solution for that problem. And he looked at Sanakadis. The only thing he has been asking everyone else. He said, do you know a way? Do you know something that can actually awaken this jnana, bhakti and vairagya? Please, if you know something like that, do pass it on to me. Kumaras, they were very happy to hear this from Naraji. They immediately assured Naraji and they said, Ma chintam kuru devarshe, harsham chitte samavaha. Be happy. Why? Don't worry. See, that's the beauty of Mahatmas. The moment we go with a problem to them, even before giving the solution, they actually put our mind at ease. They give us that confidence. That solves half of the problem. The strength to face a problem itself actually solves the problem in most cases. Is it not? So here they begin by saying, Ma chintam kuru. That's why even Bhagavan, whenever someone does Sharanagati, the first thing he does is Ma bhayi. Abhaya is be fearless. And then he says, I'll come to help you. But the assurance, so here they say, Ma chintam kuru. Don't worry. Be happy. Literally, Ma chintam kuru devarshe harsham chitte samavaha. Don't worry and be happy because we know the solution for this. Upayaha sukha sadhyo atra. It's a beautiful term. There is a upaya, there is a solution, and how is it? Sukha upaya. This solution is a joyful one. There is no struggle, there is no pain, but there is a lot of gain. That's the beauty of this. And we are not giving you something that we have just, thought of. He says, Vartate purva evahi. This solution has existed for a very long time. Naraji was surprised. He said, how come I didn't know? He says, Kumaras, they say, Vaikunta sadaka pantha satu gopyo hi vartate tasyopadeshta purushaha prayo bhagyena labhyate. Vaikunta sadaka pantha. This solution, this path which we are going to reveal here is a path that would lead one to Bhagavan. Vaikunta sadaka. It would lead one directly to Bhagavan. That is the greatness of the solution. And that solution, though has been in existence for a very long time, is not known to all because prayo bhagyena labhyate. Again they say, only the fortunate ones get to know about it. And they say, don't worry Narada, you actually know. You just didn't think of it now. It's not new to you. It is this jnana yajna. There are various ways in which the same goal can be attained. Is it not? But there are some things that can be attained by only a particular kind of sadhana or particular way of things, particular path. Exactly. So they say, Dravya yajnaha tapo yajna yoga yajnaha tata pare swadhyaya jnana yajnascha tetu karma visuchakaha satkarma suchako nunam jnana yajna smrito budaihi. When Naraji was searching for the solution in the presence of, Bhakti Devi and Jnana and Vairagya, and when he found that Vedas and Upanishads and Gita was not working, chanting of these were not working, they were not helping in awakening Jnana Bhakti Vairagya, he was really worried. At that time, he actually heard a divine celestial voice, a asharira voice, a voice without any form. He could not see anybody telling it, but he could hear it. And that voice had told him that you have to do a satkarma. You have to do a righteous act. If you do that, you'll get the solution. And Naradji was going about trying to find that right act to do. What is that satkarma that will actually awaken these people? That was what he was looking at. And here, Kumaras, they say, Satkarma suchako nunam jnana yajnaha smrito budhaihi. Know that satkarma to be jnana yajna. And what is jnana yajna? This jnana yajna is listening to Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana for 7 days as a saptaha. That is the jnana yajna. And here the Kumaras say, if you do that jnana yajna, sacrifice of knowledge, which is listening to Srimad Bhagavata Katha for 7 days. He says, you know what will happen? Bhakti jnana viraganam tad ghoshena balam mahat. Bhakti, jnana and vairagya will get strength. They'll get strengthened. That is the greatness of Bhagavata Mahapurana. And you know Bhagavata Mahapurana already because we are going to see Narada, sage Narada is going to be the one who's going to inspire sage Vedavyasa to compose Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is not new to him, but he just could not place it as a solution. And Kumaras helped him do that. No, they showed that reading, chanting, listening to Bhagavatam for 7 days as a Bhagavata Saptaha would be a solution that would lead to even emancipation of a soul. That is the beauty of Bhagavatam. When Naradji heard this, Naradji was quite surprised. He said, really? You mean Bhagavatam will work? They said, yes, it is Bhagavatam. That is the solution. Now Naradji raises a doubt here. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? We will see the details of Bhagavatam and the place of Bhagavatam, everything. But Bhagavatam, like any other Purana and Itihasa, has its authority in Vedas. That is why sage Vedavyasa himself describes Bhagavatam as a fruit from the tree of Vedas. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. So here, the question that raises in the mind of Naradji, which he puts forth to Kumaras is, he says, but I chanted the Vedas. Bhagavatam is only the essence of Vedas. Bhagavatam cannot be different from Vedas. Bhagavatam gives me the same thing that Vedas do. When I chanted the Vedic mantras directly, Vedas are the source of Bhagavatam itself. That being the case, when I chanted Vedas themselves, if that could not awaken jnana, bhakti and vairagya, if that could not strengthen devotion, dispassion and knowledge, how can Bhagavatam do? Bhagavatam is more like a byproduct. How can it do? And Kumaras smiled and said, valid question. But Naradji, what we have to remember is that the properties of a source and the property of something that has been derived from that source can be entirely different. And he gives a few beautiful examples. He says, Amulagra. If you look at a tree, right from the root, through the stem and the shoots and the branches and the leaves, the essence of the tree is there everywhere, all through. But if you want to have a taste of the tree, you can't bite on the bark, you can't bite on the root. To really relish the essence of the tree, we have to take the fruit. Is it not? The fruit cannot exist without the tree. The fruit has come from the tree. But the property of a fruit is so very different from the tree. Is it not? That's the same case here. Bhagavatam is from the tree of Vedas, but it is a fruit of Vedas, and the properties of Bhagavatam are entirely different and, as a matter of fact, much greater than even the Vedas. That's the beauty of it. The other example it gives is a little beautiful story. There was this little boy, who was very hyperactive. he had to go run around and keep doing things. It so happened that on one day, his family had a beautiful function in which they were doing a havan, a sacrificial ritual, a yajna. They were doing this in their house. And the priest was, helping the family head with the performance of this sacrificial rite. And a little boy was running around. The priest thought, let me put him to some good use. So he called this child and he said, my little child, go and bring a pot of ghee. The child ran and he brought a pot and he was holding on to it tight. The priest said, please give it to me. He said, no. Whatever you want to do, tell me, I will do it. The priest, he tried to explain but didn't work. So he said, okay, you just wait. The moment I tell you exactly the final step of the sacrifice, which is called the Purna Ahuti. You give everything in and that's the final offering. At that time, we'll need a lot of ghee. So when I give a go, just pour it in. The child was all ready. And when that moment came, the priest said, now. And the child poured the entire pot into that fire. And lo and behold, the fire was completely put off. The priest was surprised. Then he understood that this child had not brought ghee, he had brought milk. The priest was wild. He said, why did you do this? I asked you to bring ghee. Why did you bring milk and pour it inside? He said, dear priest, simple logic. How do you get ghee? You boil this milk, then you cool it off, then you add a bit of curd to it, it becomes curd, and then you churn the curd, and then you get butter out of it, and then you take the butter, and then you melt the butter and you get ghee. So, you get ghee from milk, is it not? You asked only for ghee, but I gave you milk itself. So why are you angry with me? See, though ghee has come from the milk, it's not the same. They don't have the same properties, is it not? If we add ghee to the sacrificial fire, this melted butter, what happens is the fire actually grows. But if we add milk, it will actually put it off. So though ghee has come out from this milk, the properties are different. He gave these examples and Kumaras, they made Naraji understand that though Bhagavatam is from the Vedas, it is the essence of Vedas. Since it's the essence of Vedas, its properties are very different. It can do things that even Vedic chanting cannot do. It can do things that even what Gita chanting cannot do. That is the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he says that those of them who have not heard, Srimad Bhagavatam even once in their entire life are not, worthy to live. They're as good as dead, he says. He says, throw away all the other Shastras. Nothing is going to be of much use in Kali Yuga. Kim Shrutaihi Bahubihi Shastraihi Puranaischa Brahmavahaihi Ekam Bhagavatam Shastram Muktidanena Garjati. He says, why roam about and get confused by trying to learn and hear so many things? Stop it. There is this one solution for this Kali Yuga, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. He says this is the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam, and at that time, when our Kumaras are expounding this Bhagavata Mahatmya, Naradji said, tell me how do we do this? So he says, so choose a holy place and mark a place and do Saptaha there. And Naradji requested the Kumaras to actually do the Saptaha for the sake of rejuvenating Jnana, Bhakti and Vairagya. The Kumaras also accepted that offer of Naradji, and it was in that Sabha that Kumaras began the discourse by talking about the greatness of Bhagavata, which is Bhagavata Mahatmya, something that we are doing right now. And when they were expounding the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, suddenly Bhakti Devi with her two children, Bhakti Sutau Tau Tarunau Grihitva Premaika Rupa Sahasa Virasit Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Natheti Namani Muhurvadanti. Bhakti Devi with her two children, she came to the place where the Saptaha was happening, and the two children Jnana and Vairagya were not old anymore. They were not unconscious anymore. They had regained their strength. And with all the joy and valor, they came out there and they all stood there in front of Naradji. See, Shaunaka Maharishi is actually listening to this glory of Bhagavatam from Suta Pauranika. We have to remember that thread. In Naimisharanya, Suta Pauranika is expounding the greatness of Bhagavatam as found in Padma Purana to Shaunaka Maharishi and the other sages, the other rishis who have assembled there. So Shaunaka Rishi, when he heard this entire story, he asks, he further asks Suta Pauranika, how is it that Bhagavatam is so great? Why is this fruit, this product so great? How is it so different from the Vedas themselves? Please explain. Suta Pauranika now reveals the secret behind the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the uniqueness of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the uniqueness? He says that during the Lord's incarnation as Sri Krishna, as Krishna Avatara, Bhagavan did many leelas. He lived for almost 125 years. And towards the end of his avatara, he decided to finish off all the leelas and get back to his abode. Uddhava, who was the minister of Lord Sri Krishna, was also a very close friend of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, knew the heart of Bhagavan. Bhagavan did not have a need to express his thoughts in words. Uddhava was able to perceive the very thought of Bhagavan. So he would always know what Bhagavan wanted. He would always know what Bhagavan was planning. He was completely aligned with Bhagavan Lord Sri Krishna. So he understood that Bhagavan had decided to end this Leela Avatara and get back to his abode. And Uddhava pleaded with Bhagavan. He said, I understand that everything, when you have an avatara, there has to be an antardana. Your job, your avatara karya, the work for which you incarnated is done. And you plan to go back. But Krishna, stop for a moment and think about all those innumerable devotees who are all here, they're able to sustain their life. They're holding on to this path of dharma, the path of righteousness because of you. If you leave this world, whom will they hold on? You have to give them an ashraya, something to hold on to. He puts that idea to Lord Sri Krishna, and Bhagavan feels that we have to do something like that. It's true. And that's why when Bhagavan ended his Leela Avatara, when he was ready to get back to his abode, Bhagavatam says that Bhagavan actually did not go back to his abode. What he did instead was Tirodaya Pravishtoyam Srimad Bhagavatarnavam. Bhagavan entered Srimad Bhagavatam. Swakiyam, Swakiyam yad bhavet tejaha Srimad Bhagavate adadhat. Tirodaya Pravishtoyam Srimad Bhagavatarnavam. Bhagavan completely inundated this Bhagavatam with his divine energy, and he physically entered this Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not a mere scripture, it's not a mere text, but it is Bhagavan himself. That is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is what makes Bhagavatam unique. There is no other scripture. See, Bhagavad Gita has this greatness that it is the voice of Bhagavan. Ramayana, Itihasa, which is a history, has this greatness that it was, Valmiki's Ramayana was heard by Bhagavan Rama himself. But to top this list is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is not merely the voice of Bhagavan, which is not merely, heard by Bhagavan, but which is Bhagavan himself. So if we have Bhagavatam in our hand, we actually have Bhagavan in our hand. And that is why right from the beginning of this Bhagavata Mahatmya, it has been said, it has been emphasized that this Bhagavatam cannot be got by all and sundry. Not all can get to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if we have a course conducted like this, not all can come and sit and be a part of it. We have to be chosen by Bhagavan himself. That's why Bhagavata Mahatmya ends by telling Krishna Priyam Sakala Kalmashanashanam Cha Muktyayika Hetum Iha Bhakti Vilasakari. Krishna Priyam. The literal meaning of that would be, if someone reads Srimad Bhagavatam, if someone listens to Srimad Bhagavatam, they become the beloved of Lord Shri Krishna. But our Swamiji, our Sadguru, gives a very beautiful interpretation for that sloka. He says that it is true that when someone reads Bhagavatam, when someone listens to Bhagavatam, Bhagavan Krishna is extremely happy with them. But the fact of this entire thing is that only when Bhagavan Shri Krishna is happy with someone, only when Bhagavan Shri Krishna is pleased with someone, does he actually thrust this Bhagavatam into their hands. If we get Bhagavatam in our hands, if we get Bhagavatam in our ears, if we are able to listen to Bhagavatam and read Bhagavatam and even see Bhagavatam in our life, it's because Bhagavan is already pleased with us. It's not that he is going to be pleased because we are reading Bhagavatam. We are able to read Bhagavatam because Bhagavan is already pleased with us. That is where he says Krishna Priyam. We are all children who are loved by Bhagavan. We are children with whom Bhagavan is immensely pleased. And that's why we are all Krishna Priyas. And that's why we have Bhagavatam with us today. And that's why we are readying ourselves. We are preparing ourselves to enjoy this nectarine bliss of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the glory of Bhagavatam. And in Bhagavata Mahatmya, in Padma Purana, Kumaras further talk about the charitra of Atma Deva and the emancipation of another very sad soul called Dundukari. This Dundukari, he had done all the sins, so many sins. Like if you take a list of all the sins, you would have a tick on everything. He had spent his entire life like that, and he was killed mercilessly, and he was caught as a preta. He was roaming about as a ghost. And he was also led to the feet of Lord Shri Krishna by listening to Srimad Bhagavata Katha expounded by his own brother Gokarna. That entire story is also narrated by the Kumaras to Sri Narada, and in turn this entire Padma Purana, the entire Bhagavata Mahatmya in Padma Purana was narrated by the Suta Pauranika to Shaunaka Rishis. And with that, we conclude the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavata Mahatmya, which, as we repeat again, is not a mere scripture. Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhagavan himself, and that is the crowning glory of Srimad Bhagavata. And with that note, we conclude the Bhagavata Mahatmya with this session, and from the next session, we'll start with Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana itself. Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai.